special guest from, well, none other than Frost & Sullivan, those who know their business. Kaustubh Dhavse joins us from the firm. Thanks, Kaustubh. Give us a perspective. Do you think that the kind of gloom that's been announced for the technology sector post what happened in the global financial markets, global technology markets, that is a bit overstated and may not dent Q1 too much?
Shelly, can you repeat that once more, please?
Okay, pity that you couldn't hear me, but I'm going to try and ask you once again, what do you expect the first quarter to be like for technology?
I think the first quarter looks promising. We are expecting that Infosys, the poster boy of the Indian IT sector, does a jane tu ya jane na on the Indian IT stock market. And I think it will be able to bail out the current situation. Three primary areas that have been dogging the IT sector. One fundamentally has been the rupee appreciation, and from April of this year we have seen that rupee is depreciating, and that has been one of the positive factors for the IT industry. The second most important factor has been the subprime crisis, and that has had a direct impact on the BFSI segment, which constitutes a very large portion for all IT companies. And third predominant factor has been all the IT companies' probability of moving from a linear to a non-linear model. And what that essentially does is that the addition of a headcount will not have a direct impact on the revenue. So there will be a lot of focus on generating more revenue per employee and utilization.
That's right, but let me ask you this, you've got companies that have bagged large orders. Do you think those orders have the potential to wipe off the pressures that are coming in from a global market point of view, a global technology market point of view?
See, I think what we all have to remember is that Indian IT sector is an extremely mature lot, and they have seen a very tough time starting of 2008, predominant by the two major factors, which is subprime crisis and also the appreciation of the rupee. In eventuality, they have very strong processes, and cost consciousness has been a predominant factor which has been governed by their good financial performance. I think if you look at the global demand, we have seen that overall the world economy is slowing down. What that essentially means is that there will be a direct impact on the kind of spend that various organizations do on IT. But having said that, I think we have not yet seen that kind of depreciation in terms of the demand. What we have seen definitely is that the contracts are much more tighter now. The customers are extremely demanding, and they are trying to extract maximum value of every dollar that they're going to invest. So,
let me get in another voice. In fact, Mr. Dhavse, let me actually bring in Vineet Nair of Tech Mahindra. Thank you very much. Appreciate you joining us on this discussion on technology. Do you actually feel that some of the companies in the tech space have managed to brave the global technology trouble because large orders have come in niche areas?
Both yes and no. I think I agree with the former speaker that we are going to be facing tougher and tougher conditions. But as also said earlier, we have shown resilience. We have done well in the face of appreciating rupee, and we will need to find various strategies to circumvent or to attenuate the current conditions, which are pretty tough. One way obviously is to enter into long-term contracts which give you both stability and allow you to optimize your resources, to increase your utilization and otherwise bring costs down. Secondly, what we have been doing, and which almost every smart IT company in India has been doing, is to create enough tools, enough automation, so that for the same piece of work, the input requirement comes down. I think these and a number of other strategies have come into play, and I think rightly also.
Right. We also do understand, Mr. Nair, that there are newer markets that many IT companies are now considering. What has been a typical look west attitude has gone in towards look east attitude. Do you think these markets are actually delivering better pricing, better volumes for technology companies?
Looking eastward, I don't think you're going to get better pricing. Eastwards, if we look at China, if you look at Singapore, if you look at Malaysia, if you look at Indonesia, their price requirements and their demands are normally higher than that of the West. On the other hand, if you look at Australia, you look at New Zealand, you look at Middle East, and you look at some parts of Africa, I think there is a play in terms of higher margins there. But having said that, I don't think, at least in the niche area we are in, you're going to see drying up of demand, because in many ways what has happened to the oil prices and the kind of crunch it has brought in will force almost all enterprises globally to rely on communication more than anything else. I mean, how are we going to meet the energy crunch? One way of doing it is through better communications.
In that sense, you do see that, the whole outsourcing story probably gets accentuated in the years to come. Let me ask Mr. Dhavse once again, the whole idea that people are expecting a hit on top line and hit on bottom lines on companies in the first quarter, just restricting ourselves to this area in terms of, the quarterly numbers. Do you think, Mr. Dhavse, that newer markets may not have helped the tech companies so much, and we might have to wait till the end of September or even till October before a serious turnaround is seen in these companies?
I think, I partly agree with what Mr. Nair is saying, and I think I want to emphasize the point enough that Indian IT organizations have been able to successfully de-risk their revenue projections, which were primarily based out of the US, and they have been able to establish a base across Europe, Latin America, and some parts of Asia. What are the models that they are using in order to penetrate those territories are extremely interesting and are different for various organizations. Recently we read a report wherein in markets like Japan and in markets in language constrained markets, there is a higher impetus on driving local partnerships, and we see that happening in some parts of Europe too. I think if you look at the various Indian IT companies, the ones which have a larger dependence and a good amount of spread across various geographies, including India, will tend to benefit, and I think the numbers are going to talk for themselves. You will see a tremendous amount of upside on the top line, not necessarily the bottom line, because you don't see those kind of margins. If an IT company is hiring a program manager for a substantial amount of money, and if that program manager is exposed only to Indian-based projects, then I think the utilization and the cost per employee is definitely going to be higher. So, it's going to be a tough act, but I think overall, I am a firm believer that organizations with a wide spread and reach are going to be much more benefited, and I think each and every IT company has plans in that direction.
Right. One final question, and I should ask you that, Mr. Dhavse. Mid caps versus big caps, do you see a specific kind of separation there in terms of what they deliver for Q1?
I'm sorry, unfortunately, I will not be able to specifically talk about companies within those spaces and their share prices. But what I can say with confidence is that I'm looking forward to the Friday release, and I think that the results are going to bail a lot of us out.
Okay, Mr. Nair, one final question to you, which is more led by employee costs. I mean, we might face a slowdown in general across the world and in orders or in client, spends. But wage inflation has been something that India's IT sector has been rather concerned with. Do you think it's going to take a bit of a backseat? Wage hikes ahead, hiring ahead?
I think you will see pressure on wages. That doesn't mean there's not going to be a wage increase. All that means is the delta increase may not be as high. That's one. And I think the other thing which most IT companies are doing, including us, is to increase the intake of the younger campus recruits. So the average price per employee remains kind of at the same level. I mean, these and many other ways are being found to meet the expectations of the employees who have got used to significant increases every year, and on the other hand, to make some economic sense out of wage inflation through higher utilization and altering the age pyramid in the IT company.
Thank you very much, Vineet Nair and Mr. Dhavse, for joining us. Good to have you on this technology sector discussion. We're watching out for what the numbers will look like. In fact, the expectations are from at least Infosys, which comes up on Friday, that there will be an expansion